and I think one of the first things that we've heard on the grapevine is that you have taken from sales, you've moved over to the service department, and tell us what's happening really.
Yeah, the reality is that is true. I have moved over to the service department. I've been primarily involved in sales and just general help through the whole dealership and whatnot. I'm going to go back to COVID being a change in the arms a little bit, in the respects that all our key staff are still there, but the support staff since COVID has been very difficult. It's been very hard to get people to stay. It's been very hard to get people to come to work every day. And our service department probably struggled more than other departments. I mean, our parts department, we got people like Bruce that have been there for 40 years, and you know, he's not going anywhere. He hasn't missed a day of work in 10 years, and he'll continue to be there. The sales department, I mean, that's ideally our number one as far as, like, you know, keeping the lights on in the building and stuff like that. But I tell people all the time, the service department is the one department that makes the least amount of money, but it is the one department that can either make or break your reputation in the industry. So I have assigned Kevin. Kevin's been with us for about 7 years now as our sales manager, and actually he's doing a great job because he's solely focusing on sales. He's probably doing a better job than I ever did. I moved over to service manager in that department. So we've got some, I put some couple old faces and a couple new faces into the service counter, so that we can have some continuity and some consistency in there. You know, if you want to touch a little bit on the fact that, you know, we were looking at bringing in mechanics from other places, and we are still trying to. Excuse me. The reality is across Canada there's a shortage of motorcycle mechanics. That's the fact of life. The school system has been promoting, I believe, you know, IT positions and stuff like that, and the trades have suffered in all industries, the housing industry and mechanics industry for automobiles and motorcycles and stuff like that. Like I said, we still have consistently the same mechanics we've had for a long time, some very good master techs and whatnot. But we have had, in the last few years, a few mechanics retire that have been a hard void to fill. We are trying to bring in people from outside of Canada. There is some limitations as far as what can be done. We've jumped through most of those hoops now, and we're still trying. We haven't been successful up to this point in time. The commitment to bring someone in is a lot. Across Canada, it's been such a problem that BMW Canada has hired a company to try to help facilitate bringing in new mechanics to all dealers across Canada. Part of the reason that we struggled last year getting appointments was because we had probably about a 15% of our slots were filled by people from Toronto, because they could not get period appointments in Toronto, so they were coming as far as Ottawa and Montreal and London to get work done. I made a decision this year that we're not going to service those clients, simply because it's just putting too much strain on our systems here and stuff like that. So I'm not saying we're only going to service people that buy bikes from us, but we're going to supply local customers first and whatnot, and you know, the Toronto customers and whatnot. Unless they're long-term customers at our store, we're going to have to push them off so that we can better fulfill the needs within our customers. BMW's also realized that there is a rush come springtime and whatnot, and there's a lull in the winter time. So I was telling Fiona, they've introduced a new campaign for this year that helps subsidize pickup and delivery of bikes during the winter time. And they're also doing, for anything more than an annual service, they're offering a $100 rebate towards the service bill. So I mean, if you needed to come in for a new tire, unfortunately it doesn't qualify, but if you need a 20K service, or you know, an annual service or something like that, they are offering a rebate. Anyone that's got their bike in storage with us and they're getting service work done over the winter time, that'll automatically just get applied. They don't even have to do anything, it'll just get done. So it's a nice little bonus there that we weren't expecting. They're subsidizing the pickup and delivery. I'm still waiting to see the final details, but it looks to me like it's, you know, it's $150 each way type thing in the Ottawa area, and they're going to do 50% subsidy, so it'll be $75 each way. $100 rebate, you're almost breaking even, and you're getting the work done over the winter time as opposed to getting done. If you can bring your bike in yourself, then it's just straight, you know, $100 to the bottom line off your bill. And the reason for that is because in the springtime, undoubtedly there will be, you know, a bit of a wait, and no matter the best we can do, there will be times in the summertime where we're probably a 4-week wait or 5-week wait for storage, for servicing, just because the mass influx of people looking to get their bikes serviced in the springtime. That still can be avoided if you plan ahead, book your appointments ahead of time, stuff like that. That's still, you know, we can still get you in and out, you know, assuming same day, assuming parts are available and stuff like that, if appointments are made. It's just that, you know, the guy that comes in April and says, I want to book my 20K service and hopefully can I bring it in next week, that'll be harder to do. So we have to plan ahead a little bit. And but the big thing with me coming over to service is I'm trying to open up the lines of communication a little bit and trying to get things done. I've always said you can have the best mechanic in the world, you can do the very best job in the world, but if the drop-off communication isn't there, communication during the process and the presentation of the bike being clean at the end isn't done properly, the consumer doesn't feel like the job is done properly, even though, like I said, it could have been the best servicing in the world. So we're going to work on that side of things. We've got some really, really good mechanics. I'm not worried about the service side of things, but we are going to try to work on other things to try to get things better and clean up the paperwork and get things through. And I've already noticed a difference since I've taken over about 2 months ago, and just with the staff I've got in place and me being looking over them. And this isn't a short-term thing. I'm going to be there for a while in service. I figure I'll be there at least 1.5 years or something like that, you know, and then I'll eventually bring someone in to take over, but I'm going to work with them for quite a while before I let them out in the wild type thing.
And the wild, we're the wild.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. But the reality is I have probably a higher level of expectation for customer service than anyone in this room, and you know, we're going to try to get there. And we won't be able to get there all the time, but we're going to do our best. And it's still a family-run business. We're still involved and still there, you know, 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week, type thing in the springtime, and trying to make things right. So.
Well, you don't give me much time to ask questions, but my question then, because Jason basically has just reiterated very capably everything that we talked about today, that makes me feel good about what's coming next year. And I would just like to say, think all of us, if we put a little bit more thought into things now during the winter period, you know, if your bike is in storage, have you really thought about what, maybe you've all got your arrangements made, maybe you haven't, but if the bike's in storage now, what's needed to, you know, anything that you can make arrangements for and book in so that it can get handled over this period of time, over the winter, go for it. Even as far as looking, you know, most of us know what kind of mileage we do, what kind of schedule we expect to maintain during the summer. And if your bike's going to come up for a major service during summer 2024, you know, booking. There's nothing stopping them booking now for July, presumably. Nope. You know, give it just some thought, because I think Jason has been very, very honest with us. There are a lot of pressures in business. I think any of us that are in business or that do business with different things know that everybody's had to change their ways over the last little while for a variety of reasons. So if we can meet part way on this and get, you know, he's doing everything he can to give us the service that we would wish for. If we can think about our needs and schedule ahead to a degree, and if that happens, then when we do have issues and something is broken or we're ahead of the game in mileage, hopefully there'll be those opportunities to get in. The fact that I feel badly that all the people in Toronto, our friends at the Ontario Club, are going to struggle to find somebody to do their bikes, but that's just life. And you know, so we're saying with all the best of goodwill, that's the goal for the season. As Jason was saying earlier, in a perfect world, he would have 8 full-time mechanics. And the reality of what's available in the market at the level at which they wish to have, there are 5. And every possible step is being taken to try and bring that number up with the right kind of quality. But I'm excited to know that Jason himself has taken up that role in service. We all, and I did say this in speaking with him, that, and this reflects the comments of the board in the weekend, is that we all really love what happens upstairs in the parts department. The service there is fantastic. The accessories and the clothing and so forth, we get tremendous service. I'm looking at Tina there and looking at the women in the room in particular, because we get short shrift a lot of times. In a lot of places it's very hard to get clothing and gloves and God knows what else that we need in sizes that actually work, and that has always been great, and so of course the men's side of things. So you know, in terms of the dealership, that service and getting us out on the road has been the area of concern. So I hope everybody here take a leap of faith with us. If you have concerns, then please you know, voice them directly. Don't talk amongst ourselves and go on about it. Let's be as honest as we can, and we'll see. And I think that way everybody's going to move forward as positively as we can under the circumstances of challenge in mechanics.
The reality is we've already started to take steps to be proactive. I mean, with our storage bikes, we did cut down the amount of bikes this year against my, I wanted to stay higher, but we just cut down the amount of storage bikes, so getting them out of the springtime will be a little bit different process. But we're also being proactive in that we're taking an inventive, I've always pushed for this, but it wasn't done to the level of it is being done this year, is we're taking a proactive look at everybody's motorcycle and storage. We're looking at your bike. If you drop it off and it has 39,000 kilometers, 39,200 kilometers, I'm going to call you over the winter time and say, hey, listen, you're at 40,000 kilometer service time. Like, you know, we can do it over the winter time. We have a rebate with storage, and we get it done. And we're going to get people done. Everybody's bike's tires are being looked at. Every bike that's coming through our service department in the storage season is being looked at as if we're taking it on trade. So we're going from front to back and making sure steering head bearings don't need replaced, and make sure tires don't need replaced, and make sure servicing's up to date. And we'll present that to the customer and have them the opportunity to say, listen, let's get it done over the winter time so that springtime's not an issue, right? And you know, we've always done this, but we're checking for recalls and we're making sure everything's up to date on that sort of stuff. I mean, BMW had a fairly significant recall with a carbon shaft this year on their GS series bikes and stuff like that. They've got on top of it now, but there was a time period where they didn't have parts and everything like that. It made it difficult, and these things are getting done at a very quick pace during the winter time and whatnot. So I mean, that's all proactively looking at it. I'm changing the process for getting bikes out of storage in the springtime. I mean, it's simple small things like, you know, we used to wait for the customers to call to make sure that the bikes, and then we start to prep the bikes, because some people want them April 1st, some people don't want them till July, right? And you won't want to leave the battery unattended for, you know, a couple months type of thing. But this year I'm going to look at it as, you know, we got a massive rush coming in April. I'm going to pre-service all the bikes in March, you know, and if, you know, by the end of April they haven't come to pick up their bikes, well, we'll pull the batteries back out, we'll put them back on charge, and yeah, it's an in and out more than we should, but the thought behind this is that, you know, customer calls in and gives their 10 days notice, and we'll say, oh, you know what, sir, your bike was accessible, it's already prepped, ready to go, you can come pick it up tomorrow. And then the other customer will say, yeah, your bike was on the top rack, we need that 10 days, we'll do it as quick as we can, and we'll keep an eye on the bikes that we've already prepped, and if they haven't been picked up in a reasonable amount of time, then we'll work backwards from that, right? But the theory is that take advantage of a bit of a slow time to get the bikes ready so that when the rush does hit, and last year was an unusual year in that we got an early nice weather that all hit all at once, right? You know, I mean, not to make excuses by any means, but I mean, we had one night from close to morning to opening, we had 163 voice messages for people who wanted to pick up their motorcycles over the course of one evening. You got to remember, each bike out of storage is about an hour. You know, that's 163 you know, hours of work. There's only so many mechanics and 8 hours in a day, right? So it's one of those things that we got caught off guard this year with the weather. It normally trickles in, and we get, you know, the eager people that pick up early, and then the fair weather riders that come in as the season progresses, and whatnot. So I mean, there was a whole bunch of things that contributed to a lack of a better term, a perfect storm a little bit.
We don't use the word storm in
okay.
this.
In the motorcycle industry, sure, yeah. But the reality is, like I said, it's still a family-run business. I still have high expectations of what the level of customer service we want to offer is, and you know, I'm hoping that this year, with me behind the helm in the service department, it's just going to be a whole different feel. So
Thank you.
that's the plan.
That's the best we
That's the
can ask
plan.
for, and every
So-
and action has been taken, and so forth. Pierre has a question.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you. I mean, I've owned a bunch of businesses throughout my life, and I told you this in person when I went to see you.
Yeah.
How impressed I was that you're taking the bull by the horn. You're being so proactive and saying, okay, we have a weakest point in our business is this service department, and that you would. I'm not going to say leave your cushy job, but basically going from sales to handling customer problems
Yeah.
is going from cushy job to pure hell. And I understand it.
Yeah.
But I'm so impressed with the fact that you're doing that, and that you're committing to your business, and not just, you know, what life is nice and we're selling bikes and thank you very much and the rest of it. I find that just absolutely incredible. So
Well, Pierre, I
just wanted to give you a big one on that.
appreciate the nice words. Thank you. I mean, I love what I do. I love what I do, and you know, honest goodness truth is the biggest struggle in our business, and I have a lot of friends with businesses too, stuff like that. It's been staffing in this industry in the last little while, and it's still not over. But the fact of the matter is that I love what I do. I love motorcycling. I love 99% of my clientele.
Who's the one? No, we didn't know.
No,
Funny
just
how
joking.
you remember my name.
But this is supposed to be a fun sport. We want to keep it that way, and the reality is you can't satisfy every customer, but if you can get 90% of the customers to 100% satisfaction, you know, then you know, I think in any industry, in any business, that's probably as good as it's ever going to get. You know, and it is a family-run business. I take a lot of pride in what we do, and our business is very simple. We're here to sell motorcycles and take care of customers, and when they're in return, they help keep the lights on and that sort of stuff. And you know, and it shouldn't have to be more complicated than that. Ultimately, it is, but that's the premise behind it, and we try to make things right. And it's I'm looking forward to springtime. Like I said, the mood of the service department, the mood of the store is already better. Things are going a million times smoother. And you know, I was worried because sales is such a big part of our business as far as keeping the lights on, keeping our staff employed, keeping things moving. I was always scared to leave that department because it is so important. But like I said, I've done every department. I've worked every field in our industry, and right now, as a business owner, I think it's the right thing for me to do. And like I said, it's not a short-term commitment; it's a long-term commitment. I'm going to make sure that it's done and set up properly and run smoothly before any of the changes from here coming through. So
Great.
that's the plan.
All right.
Richard, have a.
Did you say you have drive shafts in stock for GS?
Yeah.
Because the mileage on mine was high enough that they said we don't inspect it, we replace it.
That's correct. Yeah.
And they
So-
didn't have any.
Yeah, no, they're finally back up to inventory. We're stocking a couple at a time type thing, I think, and stuff like that. So it's doable now. And on that note, I mean, the GSs, I mean, BMW has gone one step further that at no charge for the life of the machine, they're going to be replacing drive shafts at every 60,000 kilometers.
Oh,
So on GS and GSAs.
previous models are just starting as a
As of the liquid cooled GSs.
That's still going back a few years.
So-
13, I think was the first year.
Yeah, they're just first year. So, I mean, they're going to be doing replacements on those. As part of the servicing, we'll be inspecting them every 20. But I guess something with the angle of which they're going to drive the drag shaft just put a little too much pressure for an ever product, I guess, type thing. So they're at 60,000 K. They're going to replace them under a goodwill campaign for the life of the bikes. So,
Mark has a question.
Yeah.
Just generally speaking, how is the supply chain for parts?
it's about 90% now. It's pretty good.
Pretty good?
Pretty good, yeah. Where we get caught off guard is when there's like this carbon shaft recall, for example, we're talking about here.
Well, everybody wants them then.
No, but they didn't have a solution before they realized there's a problem, right? So that we have this problem, but we don't have a solution yet. And then we got to make the product and then get it to the consumer. But I mean, if you knock your bike over and your foot brake breaks, that type of part availability is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very, very good. I mean, The manufacturer, I think, uses an excuse longer than it should have been, but BMW we're a little spoiled with compared to a lot of the other manufacturers because we take advantage of the supply chain of the automobile side of things. You know, Kawasaki, if they need to order parts from Japan, they order once a week, right? And then they wait till they have a big enough order that they can ship it into Canada at a cost-effective price. With the car side of things, they have shipments coming multiple times a day, and whether they throw a motorcycle part in with a box of car parts, it's all just a part number to them. It's all the same. Their warehouse in Toronto and their warehouse in Vancouver is all, the motorcycle parts and car parts are all in the same facility, and it's just by part number, right? So
Typically a week or two for parts?
if they have it in stock and not in Toronto, it's 2-3 days tops. If it's come from Germany, it's usually about 10 days.
Okay.
So it's a lot better than what it was a year and a half ago, for sure. But like I said, there's always going to be exceptions when there's a new recall or something like that comes out, and you know they don't have the parts available at that point in time because they have to redesign it.
Right.
Like this gentleman with the recall with the card shaft, I mean, it took them months to do it, and they prioritized who got them initially. You know, they prioritized the new bikes that needed to get done, inspected first, and then they prioritized a few other people, a few other situations, and then now they're fully readily available. But, I mean, the failure rate was so small that we saw. I'm not sure what was causing the failures, but like I think I only saw 2 fail out of 10 years of motorcycles. You know, so I mean it's
small.
It's small, but obviously they feel there was a bigger potential down the road, right? So yeah, so they're not worried about letting someone ride on it. For example, it's not a stop ride program. It's a, you know, when we have the parts available, we'll change it out program. But now they are fully available. Okay.
You know, you want to get onto the topic of 1300, but what about that stop order or stop sales?
Yeah.
That happened, well, mostly, I thought, just in the United States. But
You know,
not just
all
up here?
Canada and the U.S. It came and went. I think it was a cry wolf scenario. I haven't actually heard all the details. It had everything to do with emissions controls. Initially, I thought it was like a Volkswagen Dieselgate scenario. There was rumors that the charcoal canisters were, and again, even BMW hasn't told us everything. The rumors that I had heard from people within BMW was the charcoal canister, after many years, may not work as well as they did when they were new.
Gee, yeah.
Okay, and that the bikes were emitting more emissions than what they were. But the big fear initially was that the government agencies were to come down and slap them with huge fines and penalize them and everything like that. So BMW did a voluntary stop until they determined the depth of the problem. Okay. And then I guess it was deemed as not as big a deal as initially thought, and sales went back on and stuff like that. So there's been no corrective measures. There's been no anything in the pipeline to tell us that there's going to, you know, charcoal canisters are all going to be replaced or something like that. There was nothing that materialized of change.
Right.
I think, like I said, I think there was a concern, and they were more worried about what might happen from a fine point of view, from a public PR point of view, from a everything else point of view, than the actual problem itself. And it was like one day we couldn't sell them, and then the next day, sales are back on.
So we're back on.
Yeah, so, but it was a concern for sure. Yeah, for sure. I saw you had your hand up earlier. Did I answer your question? Or did
Yeah. You know, we understand that you don't like to service bikes older than 2000. I was just wondering if you were thinking of moving that up. I hope the answer is no, because I actually have an 06.
At this point in time, no, we're going to keep the years the same and stuff like that. And previous customers of ours will always be customers of ours. You know what I mean? Like if you know, if you had a 1998 bike now, we'll probably still service it because you've been a customer at our store forever. But if you sold it to Joe Smo down the street and he wanted to get it done, well, guess what? That bike's been stale dated.
Put another 200,000 on it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jason on these issues? Or if not, we'll move forward on to, you know, if you can't get the one you've got repaired, well, another new one might be the answer. Just saying.
New one's always the answer.
Shit, that's your model.
No,
What bike you just moved to?
On behalf of everyone here, thank you very much, Jason, for sharing that with us and for the steps that you've taken to move things in a very positive direction. I think everybody is clear on what the options are and opportunities to have a better start to their season next year if they do need the services that we provide. So let's, I'm going to take a seat, let you get on with the 1300.
Well, I don't know how many times I've been in a position where I look around at a bike and I'm like, how does this bike get better? I remember like in 1991, the Kawasaki ZX7 at like 18 years old or something like that, looking at that bike and being like, oh my God, this is the best that motorcycle's ever going to get. And then I saw one about 2 years ago and I'm like, holy cow, is this a piece of garbage compared to what's out there now? The new 1300, I saw the prototype of that bike about 1.5 years ago in Germany, and I saw the new GSA at the time, and it looked to me like they were going more off-road with the GS and then more like long-distance touring with the GSA, and there's some truth to that. And I was at the time a little concerned that the new version was going to be a little too off-road. You know, I was worried they were going to take away from some of their existing clientele that really enjoy the GS. I rode the new GS 1300. I didn't get a lot of time on it, but I got about an hour and a quarter on it in Germany about a month ago. I was down there and riding myself, and I was lucky enough to be able to get an opportunity to ride one. I can honestly say that it's just a much better version of the 1250 GS. They've done an incredible job. If you are looking to do some off-road riding, they have got some options and stuff like that to that motorcycle, and it will be a better off-road bike, but it's just a better bike all around. The biggest thing I noticed is it's 12 kilograms lighter, 25 pounds or so lighter. It feels about 40 pounds lighter off the side stand. They've lowered the center of gravity to the point where when you go lift it off the side stand, it just feels dramatically lighter. It's quite a bit narrower through the midsection. The bike feels more agile at low speeds. They've made quite a few changes as far as they've gone to an they call it telelever and paralever Evo suspension now, so they've made some changes on the front. They've added more rigidity. Part of the complaint over all the years with the telelever front end is it maybe has reduced the amount of feel coming back from the handlebars and stuff like that a normal conventional fork would do. The changes they have made offer quite a bit more feel and feedback from the front end, so it has all the advantages of the telelever front end, but it has a little bit more feeling as a more conventional fork and stuff like that on it. The option list has gotten more complicated, so anyone that struggled with building your last bike, the new option list is even more complicated. Because of the fact that they realize they can make this bike way more off-road or way more street orientated now. They've offered 3 sets of wheel choices now, so they have their aluminum wheels, their spoke wheels, and they have a forged wheel now available for street riding and whatnot. They call it enduro forged wheel, but I still think it's more of a street road wheel. They have eliminated the GS low, so the bike was available in a low format and a regular height format. What they've done now is you can order with, of course, just like before, the different height seats, but you can order the bike with active suspension, which lowers when you come to a stop. And with a low seat and active suspension, the seat height can be as low as 800 millimeters now, whereas the previous generation, the lowest seat height was 820. So it's actually 20 millimeters lower than the previous low version is with the active suspension. And it will, like I said, as you pick up speed, it will move up to regular height, and then as you come to a stop at a light, it will drop itself down. It also has, for anyone that struggles with center stands, a center stand assist. Basically jacks the suspension up so that you don't have to push as hard on the side of the center stand to the center stand and put it back in the center stand. Of course, with motorcycling and with me, I mean, safety has always been, we all love motorcycling, and we all accept the fact that there is an element of risk to what we do on a motorcycle, but we eliminate a lot of that risk with proper gear and proper training and doing stuff like the art school in the springtime and whatnot. That all plays a huge role. And the motorcycle industry is trying to adapt to that as well too. I mean, the SOS system is now going to be available in Canada, which I'm a big fan of. For anyone that doesn't know what that is if you knock your bike over with any sort of force, it's hooked it up to via satellite, and you will have a call person call through. There's a microphone on the bike, and it will say, "Are you okay?" And it gives you a certain amount of time to respond. And if you don't, they'll send an ambulance. If it's a major accident, they'll just send an ambulance. So the registry, the G-forces off the motorcycle and what's going on and location of where it is and everything like that. And if it was a major accident, it comes from 120 kilometers an hour to a dead stop and everything like that, they're just sending an ambulance. And if you fall over in a parking lot, they'll ask if you're okay. I mean, there is that from a response point of view will be a huge advantage. They've also added for next year as an option, it's not standard equipment, but you can put on is lane assist and frontal braking assist. So if you are going to rear end someone, it will apply the brakes for you, just like a lot of the automobiles now. It has blind spot detection in the mirrors. It has blind spot detection. It comes up on your dash and your mirrors telling you if there's someone in your blind spot when you put turn signal on. Obviously motorcycles have a lot less of a blind spot than some vehicles, but still happen. And it's speed sensitive, so it will, take a factor if you're doing 20 kilometers an hour versus 80. But it is less effective over, I think they said 130 kilometers an hour, because sensors have a hard time judging speed and that kind of thing. And but I mean, all this stuff is great from a safety point of view. What else did they talk about on that bike? They upped the horsepower, obviously. They went to 147 horsepower and 149 newton meters of torque. So it's up 10 horsepower on the motor and about 15 foot-pounds on the torque side of things. They've also made the motor a lot smoother. I didn't think it was possible. The old boxer motor is very, very smooth, but they made it a lot smoother. And the other thing I noticed from a huge improvement was the quick shifter. Anyone that's had GS in the past, quick shifter is a great option, but it works best from third gear up. The new quick shifter works flawlessly through all the gears, so it makes a huge difference in that respects. They've gone to just like the K bikes, they've gone to central locking on the saddlebags as well too, and they're all vario bags, so they're still adjustable size-wise and whatnot. So it's just one added feature. It's all lockable by your key or by the handlebar.
So that was just the vario boxes, not the aluminum one?
Aluminum box is primarily for the GSA,
Oh, okay.
right? And because it's a new model of GSA coming out, I don't know whether they're going to have an aluminum box that works with the GS at this point. It may when the new GSA comes out, but at this point, the only bag that will be available for 2024 will be the vario bag.
Okay.
They could very well have a new bag that fits a GSA that is also transferable at that point in time. I don't know yet. For anyone looking to ask about the GSA, it's a 2025 model. It's not coming out till then. Again, I've seen that bike. I think of a very Arnold Schwarzenegger, futuristic military type looking motorcycle. It's got a lot of flat panels on it. And the reason for that is, if anyone remembers the old air-cooled RT, they made a tank bag that just clicked into place. It was a fantastic tank bag setup because it was just, the bracket was already built into the bike and it just clicked into place. They're going back to that type of thing, but obviously smaller looking brackets, but they're going to have bags that go on this. From what I saw in the prototypes, they're going to have bags go on the side of the bike. You're going to have bags go on the fender, so if you want to do long distance traveling, you can load the whole bike up as well. And that's why they have all these flat surfaces, so the bags just literally click onto the sides and stuff like that. They've changed the drive shaft, they've lengthened the swing arm, and I'm a big advocate of longer swing arms. Longer swing arms make much smoother, better riding motorcycles because the longer the swing arm, as the wheel comes up under suspension, it can be a lot more linear and a lot smoother. And the only way they've done that is when they are able to shrink the motor because they don't want to make the wheelbase longer. So the only way to make the swing arm longer would keep the same wheelbase is to make the motor smaller. And they did that. But like I said,
moved the motor forward?
They changed the position of the motor. I'm not exactly sure what it would have to be either the same place but shorter to allow for the longer swing arm, or they moved the whole thing forward. My gut feeling is it's probably just shorter and the swing arm's longer. But I was shocked at just how, like I said, even off the side stand, how much lighter the bike felt, and how user-friendly the old bikes, all incredibly user-friendly, but they've improved everything. And I keep catching myself in this routine of saying, how are they going to get better? What are they going to do that's getting better? But the reality is, with the advancements in electronics and stuff like that, the bikes are just getting better and better. I mean, it's more powerful, smoother, less vibration, lighter handling, lighter steering. And I've been caught many times saying that I believe that the GS and the GSA, I put them in the same category, is probably the best motorcycle ever built. And it does the most things, it ticks off the most boxes, and within BMW's lineup, it accounts for 33% of their sales worldwide. I call it one model, but it's two models of motorcycles, right? So they offer 20 different models, and that series of bikes counts for a third of their sales. So they're very proud of their new bike. I mean, some people don't like the look of the headlight. I do. I understand why they did it. They need that frontal area for the adaptive cruise and for the brake control and stuff like that. They need to have the sensors up front. That new X light has cornering lights, and the new LED headlight. If you go for the Headlight Pro, which most people tend to do, they add 29 extra LED lights into the headlight assembly, and it adapts for different times of day, so it's brighter at certain times of day and darker at others. And when you go around the corner, like I said, the 2X sides light up type thing to brighten the right or left hand side when you're turning. So it's a pretty intelligent headlight. Yes, sir.
Do you know if the switch gear is illuminated on the handlebars?
I haven't done that yet.
I don't think so. I rode during the day, so I didn't notice, and I hadn't seen anything in the press saying it was. I know they changed the switch gear, but I didn't see anything in there saying illuminated. Yeah, I know Triumph has, and it's quite nice, but I don't think people are saying it. Don't quote me on that though. I could be wrong. Yeah. Any other questions about it? And availability, I guess, is probably the next thing. They're starting production for Canada, in January. They could have the bikes earlier, but Transport Canada was a little slow getting approval for the bike. From what I gather, it's there now. And availability of the bike, we've pre-sold, I think, somewhere between 10 and 13 of them so far. Because of the service now, my hand's not quite on the pulse of the sales side of things as much as anymore. But the BMW indicates that availability on this bike should be good. It shouldn't be as much a problem. But keep in mind, BMW does stagger production throughout the season. So I haven't seen an allocation yet. I don't know if I'm getting 45% of my bikes in September or whether I'm getting 45% of my bikes in March. But generally speaking, my rule of thumb is I tell people, if you order your bike before the middle of January, you should have it for springtime.
They sell a 2024 GSA 150?
They do.
They
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, the GSA is coming back for the final year. There's always a certain amount of people that want the last gen of the previous model and stuff like that. The GSA is coming back as it was, the same as 2023. Yeah. And it's still a great bike. Like, there's a much, again, I'm going off the prototype I saw a year and a half ago. The new GSA is quite different from the current model. I haven't yet. One I saw was up on a pedestal. I didn't sit on it, but it looked quite massive in size in comparison. But I didn't have a regular GSA next to it to be able to stare at it and say, okay, the profiles are similar or not similar, but the new GSA looks quite big. So, yeah. So that's about it on that bike. Pretty excited for it.
Why did they make the gas tank a liter smaller?
There was a reason for that. I don't remember what it was.
Well, the bike's more fuel efficient, they say, and it's all about center of gravity. So you're trying to keep the weight down low, trying to keep everything else, and then trying to keep the tank slim so you're not pushing your knees out and stuff like that. So for off-road riding, it makes a big difference. Street riding, it's not going to change anything. Maybe a little, like I said, a little lower center of gravity and stuff like that, but it's more for the off-road riding side of things. Yeah. I've always been shocked just how good these bikes, for big bikes, they are off-road. I know that BMW knows that majority of the clientele don't take them off-road, but it is amazing how good they are. I rode a GSA. We run a off-road training course every year. We did 2 this year, and I rode a GSA 1250 at that course, and I was shocked just how capable that bike is in off-road environments, and it's still one of the best street bikes out there. But it amazes me how universal they are.
Somebody said earlier, you said the GS is more targeted for off-road.
Well, that was my initial impression when I saw the prototypes a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Okay, because like I said, they said the GSA, they were going to go long distance touring with that bike. You know, their research shows the guy that buys the GSA because he wants the big tank and he wants the range and stuff like that. The concept is touring. And what they've noticed as a trend is RT sales, GTL sales, Goldwing sales, Harley Davidson electric sales are decreasing dramatically. And the reason for that is because of an aging demographic. You know, the guy that rides the Electric Classic or the Ultra from Harley, that's a 1,100 pound bike by the time you put two up in gear and stuff like that. And if they're 68 years old, 70 years old, they just don't feel as comfortable on it anymore, and they're going to smaller and smaller and lighter bikes. And so that market segment is withering away a little bit. And the largest growing market segment is the adventure touring. So they're going from those big bikes to a GS or to a GSA or something like that, because they still want all the features, they still want all the comfort that they got on their bigger bikes, but they want less weight. You know, we're talking going from 1,100 pounds fully loaded to 650 pounds fully loaded or something like that. You know, it's a big difference. And with the boxer motor, it's a low center of gravity. So I think, and again, this is my analysis on it, it's not fact by any means, but I think they're hoping to grab some of that market with the new GSA and creating a new real super touring market with that bike. And you know, they're getting a lot of pressure from KTM and from other manufacturers as far as like the off-road side of things, right? BMW still, I feel, is the best mix of both. But you know, KTM with their off-road heritage has got, they're promoting themselves as being a core off-road brand with their adventure bikes. I still think the GS is an easier bike to ride off-road, but BMW, they've been doing adventure bikes for 43 years now, going on 44 years. They're not willing to give up any of the market, whether it be that core market, whether it be the touring market, whether it be in the middle. So they're branching out the flexibility of this motorcycle. And it's really important too when you order it. It's going to have effects down the road on used ones too, because you can order this bike as more of an off-road version, or you can order more as a touring version with the electric windshield and larger screen and stuff like that. So when you look at a used one, you're going to be like, well, what options do they have? Is it more what I'm looking for, or more what, you know, the other guy wants? So they, like I said, initially when I looked at it, the version I saw a year and a half ago was their pure off-road version, and the one I've seen now coming out, the one I rode now, was more of their touring one, right? But with the GSA, I think they're going to go more towards that. You know, I want to make an elite, comfortable adventure touring bike that, you know, I can load up the luggage and go away for a week at a time and be extremely comfortable. You know, question.
I think you just covered it, but I was going to ask about that. What I've read, the options you can go within the GS, much more off or touring.
Yes, that's right.
So
Yeah.
that's quite interesting.
And it's going to also have to train the customer in some respects, because they're giving so much options that you, I don't want to say almost have to, but it's going to put the onus on the customer to order bikes to get what they want, right? Because we will sell bikes to the show floor, but you know, what is the customer going to want? You know, and Murphy's Law is you always have what the customer doesn't want, right? You know, and stuff like that. So I think there's going to be more onus as the option list grows. There'll always be we'll always try to stock a certain level of, you know, one or the other and stuff like that, and where the mass market tries to buy. But if you're looking for a unique build, or you know you want a blue one in this option pack, the amount of different configurations now is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So getting exactly what you want off the showroom floor is getting to be a little harder. So we're just gonna have to train, and the car industry's done that. If you want a specific build, you go in and you order your car and you pick it up, 3 months later, and that's the way it is. And if you're happy with, the way most of the dealerships are, they bring in what most of the clients want, there'll be maybe one on the floor. Yeah, I mean, other brands like Triumph has built 3 different versions of the same motorcycle, and it makes it a little harder to stock it that way, because BMW's gone more of the auto route philosophy, which is, you can build it to what you want, and spec it to what you want. So, any other questions on the bike?
Price.
Price is a big range because of the configurator and how you want to build it. I would say it's about $500 more than last year's $1,250.
Left-angle
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I mean, you could price them up last year anywhere from, I don't even remember anymore, 27 to 35 type thing. So, and it'll be up a little bit from that. But it really comes down to how you want to option it. So, yeah, it's crazy the amount of options. So.
Okay, any last questions, burning questions for tonight? No? Well, thank you very, very much, Jason.
My
That's
pleasure.
been very thorough.
So, and if I don't see everyone before that, have a Merry Christmas, and we appreciate your business.